Hi, everyone. It's time again for MustardHub Voices Behind the Build. In these episodes, we speak with the people building, backing, and running better workplaces. I'm your host, Curtis Forbes. Welcome to today's Fireside Chat. My guest today is Mary Stieber Reinout. As an ICF-certified executive coach and talent consultant, Mary specializes in executive development, assessment, leadership effectiveness, career management, and personal life transitions. With a rich career working in a variety of environments and industries, she's led learning functions and talent development at several organizations, including a national nonprofit. Internationally, she designed leadership development programs on multiple continents and led new executive onboarding globally. Recognized as a top 15 coach in St. Paul, Minnesota, she excels in coaching leaders towards leveled up performance, increased resilience, and adaptability. With a counseling background and commitment to psychological well-being, she customizes coaching engagements to respond to whole person needs. Finally, combined with her ability to align and mobilize teams to implement organizational change, Mary is an expert designing executive transition strategies. Welcome to Behind the Build, Mary. I'm happy you're here.
Thanks. I'm happy I'm here. Good to get acquainted with you too, Curtis.
That's quite a resume. And what missed that whole thing was you're a music lover like me, and a performer. You're a pianist, a vocalist. You love jazz, so you're welcome here. Did you do this professionally?
I didn't do it professionally. I continue to do it more avocationally in the context of community service and church service, literally, and that gives me great joy.
That's
But
awesome.
I loved it as a college student.
Maybe we'll get an opportunity to play a tune together at some point. But you have a very, very impressive track record in training, coaching, and consulting in the area of leadership development. So I'm curious, what attracted you to this specific focus, on developing leaders? What attracted you to the world of just professional development, and human resources in general overall?
Yeah. I'd have to date back to even high school, Curtis. I gravitated towards leadership myself, and that through line continued really throughout the subsequent decades to present day. And in terms of developing people, I often say that my career has been pretty defined by human development and as individuals and human relations, and the development of teams and relationships inside organizations, across cultures, etc. I have been that person over the course of my life that my inner circle has come to for counsel, for teaching, for advice, support, and problem solving, and it's often been related to the human, and that's been something I've been able to really leverage throughout the course of my career, regardless of the nature of the organization, the industry, the sector that I've worked in, and my volunteering kind of bears some of that out too.
It's pretty remarkable how you have been able to just expand your reach globally, right? I mean, I think that when a lot of folks get into even doing things like this, they don't necessarily realize how that influence is going to stretch, beyond cultural borders as well. So that's pretty remarkable.
Mhm.
With all the experience under your belt, you launched Threshold Coaching and Consulting. So before I dig into what Threshold is, what drove you to open, your own coaching and consulting practice? I'm always curious about what drives people to entrepreneurship.
Yes. What drove me and somewhat reluctantly so. I was
Oh.
less than cooperative in with with what was given to me as the result of a layoff. One looks at my LinkedIn profile or resume, et cetera, and they could very well conclude that I've been a wanderer or
Hmm.
not one to stick around in roles. But the truth is, my job was eliminated a half a dozen times already in the course of my career, um, and I started Threshold on the heels of one of those layoffs, and that was at the beginning of COVID. Um, so it proved to be a, a gift in disguise. And I have enjoyed the pursuit for as long as I have been doing the work of Threshold in combination with some contract work that I've been doing with other consulting groups in similar spaces to my own. So I've never regarded myself as a very fierce competitor, and that is also playing itself out in my business of Threshold. I do my best work in collaboration with others in a partnership with people who are in my field as well as my clients.
That's pretty remarkable, though, and I'd say that's not uncommon, right? The gift in disguise. I think we've all been in a situation where we see something, or we have to experience maybe something that looks like an incredible challenge we have to overcome, but on the other side is something maybe better than we could have anticipated before that obstacle was in front of us. So tell me a little bit about Threshold. What are the
Mhm.
services that you offer? I'd love to hear a little bit more about the company.
Yeah. Threshold exists for individuals, teams, and organizations that are seeking to implement significant change um, in individual lives as well as organizationally. Um, Most of my work currently is providing executive coaching services and uh, for the purposes of assessment and development, as well as executive career transition.
Hmm.
Um, and so I'm, along with, working with executives who are inside organizations, and happily so for the most part. I'm also working with those who are facing a career transition, either um, either one that they're aware of because the organization has communicated a decision,
Okay.
or those who are seeking to make a change. So those are the individuals I work with. The team alignment work I do also incorporates assessment work generally. Examples being uh, Hogan assessments, Strength Finder, as well as emotional intelligence assessments. But all of those can certainly be administered, debriefed, and can come together to achieve some results on behalf of a team for the good of an organization. So that's where the team and organization comes into play. Those are a few examples of what Threshold is intended to accomplish in the world.
I I guess to some degree, right? There's this really significant level of authenticity too. We right, you talk about leadership changes, right? Life changes, organizational change management. You've gone through this, right? You you were a leader, right? Who has actually also gone through a lot of those life changes. So
Mm,
I can really feel the authenticity in how you describe it. Um,
mhm.
And sometimes it's that obstacle, right, that gets forced in front of us, like you said, that you unwillingly went into entrepreneurship, which has been a blessing. And
Mhm,
then
mhm.
in some cases, it sounds like people will manufacture that obstacle and put it in front of them because they want to see a change, and they maybe aren't really sure how to, I guess, how to step into that new environment. I have to know,
Yes.
why the name Threshold?
Mm,
Although I just kind of alluded to like stepping into a new environment, so
yeah,
I didn't
yeah,
process that before I said it, but I'm guessing it has something to do with that.
yeah, it is. It's exactly right. Um, and you would, get a sense of that, I think, in looking at my website. Um, it is a crossing over. It also can be a leveling up, right? When we talk about hitting a threshold of
Mm,
capacity or desire, uh, and and yes, and I think so. It can connote that notion of going up and or crossing over into something new, and for many, new can be interpreted as risky. It also invites, obviously some uncertainty, but certainly a sense of adventure as well. So most of my work has attended to both of those scenarios, of people who want to level up on their abilities, their capacity for for something bigger, greater, faster, stronger, and then those who simply want to get to the other side of
yeah.
um, a, a decision they've made on behalf of themselves or an organization, or getting to the other side of complexity
Yeah.
and needing some support and someone to journey with them to to sort some things out related to that complexity.
So what what kind of clientele shows up on your doorstep? These individual executives, other leaders looking for professional
Mhm,
development, right? I mean, do
mhm,
you ever have the organization sending their leaders to you? I mean, we don't have to name any names here, but I'm curious to hear a little bit about, what are the organizations like?
mhm. The organizations that send to me can be organizations that are aware of a restructuring
Mm,
that will impact some individuals who will be in need of outplacement kinds of services, right?
okay.
So occasionally those are my clients. Um, the clients I'm working mostly with now are come to me through organizations who recognize potential, high potential in a particular leader or a team, um, but they don't quite know how to crack the nut on on the individuals or the composite team,
Right, right.
to get the best, get the most out of the collective. Um, and therefore, where I come into that is being able to come alongside both individuals as well as the team to tap the facts of the situation in terms of the assets of the group, as well as potential liabilities
Mm,
or risks, and then from there, work, of course, towards a development plan, and in a way that is articulates in a planful way
yeah.
what will benefit the individuals as well as the team for leveling up, moving forward, accelerating, whatever the pain points are, excuse me, and whatever the organization is needing individuals or a team to do. Um, So go ahead.
Mary, yeah, I'm curious when a leader or aspiring leader or somebody who's sent to you when they come, how often do they actually really have clarity about what their needs are? How often are they self-aware when it comes to their behaviors, their leadership style? Is this something you see frequently, or is this something you generally have to spend a lot of time educating on?
Hmm. That's a great question. And often the self awareness on the part of a leader has come, has been brought to their attention
I like
first,
that.
right? Through a performance review, some feedback, tough feedback, um, and perhaps combined with all the affirmations around performance and potential and such. Um, but they usually are referred to me for a particular reason, even if it's a small set of reasons, and it could be as concrete as uh, impatience and
Hmm,
tendency towards anger, right?
really? Okay.
Um, and like in my role in that, of course, is to unearth, some, contextual contributors, perhaps, to the problems in relationships that
Sure.
that lead to a short fuse, maybe. Um, but it's also to establish some milestone goals
Mm,
around behaviors, as
okay.
well as uh, recognition that even root causes of some of what is contributing to the difficulties that they're having in their relationships. And I'm often sought out because of my counseling psychology background. So while I brand and market myself as a coach, certainly my background as a counseling psychologist has uh, been its own secret sauce, or I feel like I'm a whisperer around matters of the psychology of leadership,
Yeah.
neuroscience associated with leadership, because I've had uh, enough education in that, and can continue to pursue specializations. So that's why I think I'm sought out by organizations when
Yeah.
there's difficulty with how personality is showing up in an organization. So,
A common, I think, school of thought is that most people problems
mm,
are
hmm
leadership problems.
hmm
Not necessarily the
hmm
only thing, but from a lot of the conversations that I've had on this show, many of those problems stem from issues with communication. Right, leaders can
hmm
sometimes be inconsistent, ineffective when it comes to sharing what information that they're with their team that they may need to know. Is that something you see? I mean, what are the consequences of that?
Yeah, the link between leadership and people problems in general.
I guess it's sort of like you know how many of these people problems are actually leadership problems, and then by extension, really those leadership problems where there may be a root cause of poor communication.
Hmm hmm Yeah, yeah. Um, I see that very often, really. And you alluded to it earlier as you were talking about, increasing self-awareness. Um, I think most leaders, and probably most humans, Curtis, would be wise to embrace the notion that we, on any given day, are walking around with a certain amount of self-deception.
That's fair.
Right? We just we can't know it all relative to ourselves or others, and on and on and on. And I think what's really important in order to um, increase self-awareness, but also the experience of followers, of leaders, is the relationship development piece. That and the feedback loops that in healthy relationships
Mhm.
ought to be part and parcel of what happens in organizations, um, such that leaders are increasing their self-awareness and their effectiveness, um, due to how much cohesion and connectedness they have with their followers,
Mm.
and what they are hearing and
Yeah.
experiencing in their leader follower relationships. Um, so, what am I saying there? Yes, leaders have a unique responsibility
Yeah.
for resolving people problems in organizations. Um, but I think always in
Even
that
those that
dynamic,
are that where they may be the crux of the issue.
certainly then,
That's yeah.
certainly then, and I am a respecter of interpersonal dynamics and the personal responsibility that exists on the part of followers too. There's something to be said for um, attending to the whole
Yeah.
to improve its well-being, if that makes sense. So you have
Yeah.
followers and leaders, followers, and then a third entity around, and how are we doing here,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
and
So,
attending to that.
how would a leader who's a poor, communicator, for example, even begin to develop or upskill in that area? Where do they start?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Because if they're, you pointed out that right, it's going to be the leader who's tasked with resolving a lot of these issues, these people problems. If a lot of these problems are caused by their poor communication or their inability to do so, and maybe that's why they're sitting in front of you, right? Because it's been, so kindly pointed out to them.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
What are the things that they can do to begin upskilling in that area so that they can begin to address that problem?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I think the first thing is to get feedback. It's it because we can because we of ourselves can fall prey to our own personal echo chamber
Yeah.
and our own navel gazing,
Yeah.
and think that we have diagnosed our communication challenges accurately and completely, and that's just not the case. It's so important to hear from others. Um, and in terms of addressing the communication challenges, I do think that a coach can be helpful to the process of improving communication skills, be they oral, written, and sometimes it's the channels, the methods of
Yeah.
communication that are the problem.
I could see that
Um,
being critical. I mean, at
mhm,
least having somebody to thoughtfully hold up the mirror in
mhm,
front of you, because I mean, without that, right, left to our own device, often we can travel down a path that lacks course correction, right? But having somebody who can, I think, help on a regular basis, do those things in a thoughtful way, um, can certainly help, bring to our attention what needs to be changed and possibly how. Um,
mhm,
do you think that the organizations are doing a good job, I guess, in general,
mhm,
developing their leaders or providing those training and upskilling opportunities? Like, are our employers doing
mhm.
enough to prepare tomorrow's leaders to meet modern day challenges?
Um, no. And
Agreed.
right, I mean, and I don't say that because I'm angling for more business necessarily.
Right.
um, but no, to the extent that uh, I don't think in our current environment um, organizations are getting a really good handle on what would be the ideal. In other words, um, it's awfully easy in 2026 to cast stones, to be critical. Uh, it's much more difficult, I think, to get audiences, employees, and others to commit to and what would be better that would yield a different result. What would be better such that this leader would have the impact that's necessary for them to be more successful? So I think some of the corollaries that are beyond the criticism um, need to need to be better articulated, such that leaders even can have a fighting chance to experiment, to to in fact improve, to try some things. Um, yes, for them it is upskilling, but it's also sort of trying some things
Yeah.
in order to become differently effective. Um, I think that many organizations are being led by great leaders, but they are leading in a vacuum of right now. I think in many respects, and so they are um, throwing dice and throwing spaghetti against a wall,
Yeah.
and hoping what they're trying to do will stick and have the desired outcome.
I really couldn't agree more. For an organization that hasn't prioritized learning for its workforce, Mary, how do they start weaving that into the fabric of their business? How would you advise an organization to even go about starting that?
Hmm. I think it would frankly depend on um, it, it would depend on any, I think, any organization bigger than 15 people.
Hmm.
The learning needs could vary. Will they vary across all 15? Not necessarily, but there I think are ways to get 15 down to a manageable number of felt learning and skill development needs. So and that doesn't take a lot of time and energy. It might be a quick surveying, but it also may just be knowledge enough on the part of managers on up to identifying if there are in fact if some quick wins for the organization um, that would both engage employees in ways that are motivating to them, where they get the why they are doing this particular training on improved customer service. What does that mean in 2026? um, but I think doing a broader and inclusive offering that resonates for any and everyone in an organization is one approach to just to such that an organization could receive real accolades from the employees to say they did this for all of us first quarter of 2026. um, that is one way. I do think there can be some some value in offering up a platform of learning, learning opportunities, and that's in the context, of course, of e-learning and other things that can be served up through having an organization get a membership to all that Harvard Business Review has in their library. That's not a poor way to go. I think what's really important is that there are some assignments being given on the part of
Yeah.
managers and leaders to such that there are certain articles that a department is reading, whether it's a department of 5 or 25, but where there's an opportunity to then come together and discuss that particular Harvard Business Review article. And it doesn't matter what your title is,
Yeah.
but that is community oriented learning,
I
and
like that.
that can be of value on the part of a team.
I like that. I like that a lot. Tomorrow's leaders are today's team members, right?
Yeah.
And so you talk about, doing that sort of community-based learning without regard for what your title is a great way to get those younger entry level or mid-career employees to start in that building those habits, right, of
Hmm.
learning, so that when they become leadership, it's normalized. And those employees, they make up a large portion of today's workforce, right? Early, entry level, even mid career. You feel like they're getting what they truly want from their employers, like in general, in terms of diversity or inclusion, in terms of benefits and whatever. How do you see their experience?
I think there's there are many ways to kind of slice and dice this, right? When I think of 20 somethings and their general preference for um, learning on the job and
Hmm.
being entrusted with um, micro to maybe more macro problem solving tasks, that is very motivating. It's pragmatic,
Yeah,
um, and there's an eagerness, and if not an expectation, that they roll up their sleeves and then take what they've learned from pragmatic problem solving, and they figure out what the learning transfer is going to be. Um, their interest, I think, in more, even the huddles of having a discussion around a Harvard Business Review article, their appetite for that is less
yeah,
than it would be for someone who is perhaps in a supervisory to executive role. Um, so it really depends on sort of what stage of professional development I think someone is in. Um,
that's fair.
so yeah, I think that's it's not an easy not an easy thing to implement this
Yeah,
at this time. What I think you're hitting on though is that we all want to matter, and we all want to be and I
yeah.
would want to be seen. We want to matter. Um, we want to have and know that our contributions make a difference.
Make a
And
difference and grow and
right,
be, and know that, you're going somewhere. You're not just spinning your wheels.
yeah, that's right. And and people want to increase their sense of significance
I think so.
in
That's a very
on
good way to put that. Actually, I'm going to steal that. I like it.
right. Yeah, I think that that's the case, and I think what is threatening to that right now is that folks are uncertain about their status, and I don't mean that in a hierarchical sense, but it's sort of more as a state of
Sure.
of being, well-being, connectedness, belonging, and I think if we can ensure people that their status is secure, which is not an easy thing to do in 2026, and I understand that. But to be able to do anything to ensure that people feel like they're connected up in relationships, and that there is even a defined set of things that they can be certain of.
Yeah.
To be able to reinforce that, I think, increases employees' engagement and sense of groundedness and well-being.
Mary, just to take a little bit of a left turn, any predictions for the future of work?
Mm.
Changing, worker classifications, more fractional employees, when we work, where we work, AI and its impact. What? Give me some predictions that you have 2026 and beyond.
Wow. Blue sky, right? Blue
Indeed.
sky, deep ocean. Um, what I do anticipate is that employees are going to continue to demand from their employers increased flexibility of work arrangements. I and I have to think that employers are going to continue uh, to honor that, and to kind of see the light related to some of these things,
Mhm.
um, because we all have caregiving responsibilities. Period. Full stop.
Yeah, I like that.
In a, and yeah, in our lives, we are also in communities of interdependency outside of work. And I think in general, people are going to be asking for more flexibility, let's say that, and maybe more in other respects, um, such that their lives and work can be better integrated.
Yeah,
Um, so I think
that's a
that's
good
one of
one.
the things, and the other I think is going to be around neuroinclusion.
Tell
I
me
think,
about that.
yeah,
Tell me, expand on that. Tell me a little bit about what that
yeah,
means.
yeah, and no question, um, neurodiversity exists right here, right now, on this call with you and me. We're unique in a neurodiverse way. What's different or unique is neurodivergence, and and how that manifests in the workplace, in all kinds of ways, and in ways that those who identify as ADHD are going to be more and more willing to to be forthcoming about what difference does that make.
Yeah.
um, and they're going to speak less a language of, and therefore I need accommodations,
Mm-hmm. Oh,
but rather more, and therefore may I request, or will you respect the fact that. So I think neuroaffirmation is going to be
mm.
more of an expectation, and I think neuroinclusion, and this is right up to the C-suite. As we know, Bill Gates, comfortably talks about being neurodivergent. Um, so I think that's. I think this. Who's coming to work now, and into the future. Individuals who will be asking for more opportunities to be at tables, more opportunities to, in fact, lead, and not be marginalized or stereotyped
Yeah.
as not enough, or ill-equipped, on and on. So
I like
that's
that.
the other thing. I think, work both workplace flexibility and more in this neuro inclusion space is going to be asked of leaders, and it behoove them to respond well and
Yeah.
to embrace that.
Yeah.
Much to leverage there, much to appreciate.
I really like that a lot. Very, it's very thoughtful. It kind of leads me to a great question that I love to ask everybody here as we wrap up. If an entrepreneur, an executive, asked you had an opportunity for just a few moments, right, with them, and asked you for your single most important piece of advice about what they can do better as a leader when it comes to the people that they work with. Maybe if you just were on an elevator to the top floor and before that door opened and they walked right out of there, what is it that you would tell them?
Mm. What I tell them is it is to work on what I believe is really important, and that is decreasing our self deception. And for me, that is more than self awareness or increasing self awareness.
Interesting.
Because I think and to address one's self deception in the context of your closest, most trusted relationships. Take risks there, to become better acquainted with who you are, and not for the purposes again of diagnostics or self-loathing, uh, not at all, but rather to increase potential in ways that can benefit one individually as well as in the context of relationships.
I love that, Mary. I really do.
Oh,
Thank you.
yeah,
This was
yeah.
great. I really appreciate you joining me today. Thank you for
Oh,
being here.
oh, what a pleasure. Thank you. It was a joy. I enjoyed
This
it.
was fun. And
Good.
a big thanks to all of you for tuning into Mustard Hub Voices Behind the Build. Please like and share this episode. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And visit mustardhub.com to learn about how we help companies become destinations for workplace happiness and turn culture into a competitive edge. Until next time.